They say betrayal doesn't come like a storm. It comes like a slow leak, drip, drip, until one day you look down and realize your whole life's underwater. Mine came in a padded, peach-colored envelope. It was Tuesday, June 14th. I remember that because it was the week before our wedding anniversary, our 8th. I came home early, still in my suit, shoes off, tie loosened, and that cursed envelope sitting on the kitchen counter with my name on it in soft cursive. It was addressed to Mrs. Amelia Cross, my wife. But the return address? That was a hotel. In upstate Vermont. One of those quaint places with clawfoot tubs and old-fashioned keys and no televisions. A romantic kind of quiet. I opened it. Inside, a reservation confirmation. Lakeview Terrace Suite. For 2 guests. King bed. Champagne service requested. And the kicker? June 21st. Our anniversary. Now, I'm a lot of things. A former Marine, a current architect, a man who prefers actions over adjectives. But naive isn't on the list. I flipped the paper over and smiled to myself. Not the happy kind of smile, but the one you wear when your instincts just got a gold medal. This wasn't business. This wasn't an accident. This was war. I set the envelope down neatly, walked upstairs, and found Amelia folding laundry like she hadn't just shattered the foundation of our marriage with a weekend getaway for 2. I stood in the doorway for a second, arms crossed. You planning something special for next week? I asked. She didn't look up. HM? Oh, right. Anniversary. Slipped my mind. Slipped. Her. Mind. I nodded slowly. That's all right. I already planned something. She smiled. That practiced, placid, suburban wife smile. You always were the romantic. I didn't answer. Because I wasn't planning romance. I was planning return fire. Let me rewind just a little. I met Amelia when I was stationed in San Diego. She was visiting her cousin, wore sunglasses indoors, and told me she didn't believe in monogamy. Too many contracts, not enough chemistry. I should have run right there. But love makes you stupid. It's like alcohol without the hangover until, well, you know. We got married 5 years later. Built a home in Maine. I designed the house myself. Every brick had a purpose. I thought she did, too. But recently, things had shifted. She started humming in the mornings. Not cheerful humming, nervous humming. The kind people do when they're either about to confess something or run. Her phone got a lock. She said it was for security reasons. She started going to the gym. And somehow, she always came back dry. Now I had the evidence. Not a hunch. A reservation. So here's what I did. I confirmed the booking. I even called the hotel and upgraded the package. Added a chilled bottle of Dom Perignon and a rose petal trail leading to the bed. And I paid for it myself. Because that suite, I'd stayed in it before. 5 years ago, for our 3rd anniversary. I still had the receipt in a drawer. You know what else I still had? The handwritten letter I gave her that night. The one where I told her I'd loved her since the moment she said I was too intense to be a one-night stand. The one she left in the dresser drawer and forgot about. So I printed a copy of it. I updated the ending. And I mailed it to the hotel, requesting it be placed in the room before check-in. Along with the champagne. The note said, for the new guests, from the first owner of the heart. And that, my friend, was just the opening move. If Amelia was suspicious, she didn't show it. Which, honestly, told me everything I needed to know. She'd gotten comfortable lying to me. Like it was just another muscle she flexed during her yoga sessions. Stretch, twist, deceive. That weekend, she told me she was headed to her friend Marissa's lake house for a wellness retreat. The phrase wellness retreat hit my ears like a bad punchline. I nodded, packed her a healthy snack, and kissed her cheek with the kind of restraint normally reserved for hostage negotiators. You sure you don't want to join us? She asked. I smiled. I trust you. Which was the biggest lie I'd ever told. Because trust wasn't on the menu anymore. Surveillance was. Now, I don't believe in tracking people. But when someone rewrites your anniversary plans to include someone else's cologne, you stop playing by the usual rules. I had a friend, Ryan, a former Army intelligence guy who now runs a drone photography business. Let's just say, he owed me a favor. He didn't ask questions. Just sent me a message. Target confirmed. 2 guests. 1 Bentley. 1 betrayal. I watched from a cozy coffee shop down the street as her car disappeared into the tree-lined driveway of the Lakeview Inn. She'd brought him. The guy. I'd never seen him before. Mid-40s, hair like a shampoo commercial, the kind of smile you could smell from a distance. He was the kind of man who still wore designer jeans and called women baby in public. I named him Kenton because he looked like the kind of man who corrects waiters and thinks tipping is optional. At 3:17 p.m., I got a message from Ryan. They've entered the room. Champagne uncorked. Note on the pillow. Wait for it. I sipped my espresso and stared out the window, picturing the moment. I imagined Amelia reading the note. I imagined her face flickering through the 5 stages of oh no. Confusion, realization, denial, panic, and finally, rage. The kind of rage reserved for people who hate being caught more than they hate being wrong. And yet she didn't call. Not that day. Not that night. Not even the next morning. That's when I knew something else was at play. The next move was hers. So I waited. She came back Sunday evening. Just like she said. Hair curled. Not a crease on her shirt. No guilt in her eyes. Just rehearsed innocence. She came through the door like nothing had happened, tossed her keys on the counter, and smiled. "How was your weekend?" she asked, pouring herself a glass of wine. "Oh, quiet," I said. "Organized the garage. Caught up on reading. Revisited some old memories." She sipped. Smirked. "You always were sentimental." That's when she made her mistake. She leaned over, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "Maybe next year we'll go somewhere special. Just the two of us." And just like that, checkmate turned into check. Because I knew then what she didn't. She hadn't read the note, which meant Kenton had. And Amelia never made it to the room. There's a moment in chess called zugzwang, when every move you make just makes things worse. That's where Amelia was. She just didn't know it yet. Now, remember, she never saw the note. She thought I didn't know, and I let her think that. Because sometimes, the best way to catch a liar is to let them keep lying. Give them the rope. Let them weave the noose with embroidered apologies and half-priced affection. Amelia wasn't good at love anymore, but she was excellent at pretending. She cooked dinner that night. Risotto, which was suspicious in itself because she only makes risotto when she feels guilty or when she's trying to distract me. "Something smells good," I said, walking into the kitchen. She smiled without showing teeth. "Thought I'd spoil you tonight. You deserve it." You ever see someone act nice like they're following instructions off a cereal box? I pulled up a stool and asked, "How was Marissa's?" "Oh, lovely. We meditated. Ate clean. Drank wine. You would have hated it." She laughed too quickly. Her tells were stacking up like bad poker hands. I nodded. "Any champagne?" She paused, just for a second. Just enough for me to catch it. "No," she said. "Tea mostly." "Tea. Right." Meanwhile, I was playing my own game. See, while Amelia was sipping tea, or rather, Kenton's ego, I was already laying the groundwork for something larger. I didn't just track their little escapade. I documented it. Photos. Timestamped. GPS verified. Champagne bottle. Kenton. His ridiculous velvet loafers. The hotel receipt with his name added at check-in. The concierge's signature confirming a surprise note and bottle arranged by Mr. Cross. All wrapped in a nice little PDF. I called it, "From Husband with Love." Why? Because I knew Amelia's next move. She wasn't going to confess. She was going to flip the script. And like clockwork, 2 days later, she sat across from me at breakfast, dry toast. No eye contact, and dropped her little bomb. "I've been thinking," she said slowly. "I feel like we've grown apart." There it was. The opening breakup maneuver. Dress it up in therapy speak, smooth it over with vague sadness, and hope I'd nod along like a broken husband ready to hand over half his net worth and the dog. I set my coffee down. "So what are you saying?" She sighed like she rehearsed it. "Maybe we take a break. Clear our heads. A break. Right before our anniversary. After a wellness retreat. With a man named Kenton who wears bracelets." I just nodded. "Okay. I'll pack a bag." She blinked. "Wait, you're agreeing?" "Of course," I smiled. "I trust you." Again. That word. She didn't notice the sarcasm. She didn't see the cracks forming in her little performance. But she would. Because when I left the house that afternoon, I didn't go to a hotel. I went to a lawyer, and a locksmith, and my bank. Because if Amelia thought she was walking out with my house, my heart, or half my assets, she was about to find out just how wrong she'd been. By Thursday, the house was mine in everything but name. She just didn't know it yet. The locks changed. The security system reset. The joint accounts quietly closed. Funds transferred into my separate one. Perfectly legal, considering the prenup she laughed off when we got married because "I'm not marrying you for your money, babe." Yeah, Neither was Kenton. I'd already visited my lawyer, Grant, who speaks in terms like irreconcilable grounds and strategic positioning. We shook hands and exchanged nods like two generals preparing for a bloodless war. No yelling, no pleading, just paperwork and leverage. And by God, I had leverage. Remember that note she didn't read? The champagne bottle she never popped? Turns out Kenton had checked in first. Alone. That's what the front desk log said. Amelia arrived later and, according to the timestamp on the security cam footage, left 17 minutes after she went up. 17 minutes. That's not romance. That's panic. See, Kenton didn't read the note and laugh it off. He read it and left her. No dramatic argument, no shouting. Just vanished. A man who expected stolen passion and got a reminder that the woman in front of him had already played this game with someone else, me. It's one thing to be the secret lover. It's another thing to realize you're not even the first draft. Friday morning, I came home after an early gym session, which was mostly standing in front of the mirror reminding myself I still had control of this story, and found Amelia in the kitchen, sipping coffee with the ease of a woman who thinks she's pulling off the long con. She wore one of my shirts, like a peace treaty made out of cotton. She smiled. Hey. I nodded. Sleep okay? Yeah, she said. Better, actually. It's been nice. Less tension. She meant less suspicion. Less tiptoeing around the minefield of her own choices. Agreed, I said, grabbing a glass of water and leaning against the counter. Listen, I've been thinking too. I think it's a good idea. The break. Her eyes searched mine. Really? Yeah, I said. But maybe it shouldn't just be a break. There it was, the flicker of realization. That moment where the game stops being fun. Wait, you mean like divorce, Amelia? I let the word sit in the room like a guest we hadn't invited. She blinked. You're serious? As a heart attack, I said. But calm. No courtroom drama. No shouting. We're adults. We can part respectfully. She set her mug down a little too hard. You're overreacting. Am I? I walked to the dining room table and opened the folder Grant prepared. Photos, dates, receipts, that hotel confirmation, signed by her, the concierge's note, and my letter, printed in perfect script. She didn't touch it, but her breath caught when she saw it. What is this? This, I said, is the part where you stop pretending you were clever. She tried to recover. It didn't mean anything. I wasn't even with him for. I raised a hand. I don't care about Kenton. She paused. Then why? Because you lied. Not just about him. About us. For months. You gave away the part of yourself I used to hold. And you didn't even have the decency to admit it. That's not cheating. That's cruelty dressed in silence. She opened her mouth, probably to defend herself with some overused cliche like we were drifting apart or you never listened to me. But I didn't need it. I'd heard all the excuses before, from friends, from TV, from every story of betrayal masquerading as a breakup. She sat down, quiet now, because deep down, she knew the truth. The affair wasn't the shock. The fact that I didn't fall apart over it. That's what scared her. She thought I'd beg. She thought I'd fight for her. Instead, I was giving her everything she thought she wanted, freedom, with one condition. I'll make it easy, I said. No alimony. I keep the house. You take the car. It's technically under your name anyway. We divide the rest by the numbers in the prenup you forgot I kept in a fireproof box. She stared. You're serious? Stone cold. She looked like she wanted to cry, but not from heartbreak. From defeat. That expression she wore when her plans unraveled faster than her fake empathy. You won't get away with this, she said quietly. I laughed. Get away with what? Leaving a marriage that was already a crime scene. She stood up. You're not as calm as you think, you know. You're just bitter. Maybe, I said. But bitter is what happens when you water someone with lies for too long. She stormed out of the room, slamming the door to our bedroom, the room I'd already cleared of anything valuable. She wouldn't find any photos, no socks, no scent on the pillows. I'd moved into the guest room weeks ago. She never noticed. The best part? I left her one final gift. In the drawer next to her side of the bed was a sealed envelope. Inside, a letter. This is what happens when you mistake quiet for weakness. You chose your thrill. I chose peace. And now, you'll finally understand what it's like to sleep alone in a house full of echoes. Happy anniversary. That night, I didn't sleep at home. I stayed at a cabin up north, one I'd reserved under a fake name weeks ago, with someone who knew the whole story. A woman who read people the way I read blueprints. Carefully, deliberately, with an eye for hidden flaws. But that part, you'll meet her later. Because Amelia's chapter may be ending. But my story? It's just getting started. People think revenge is loud. They picture screaming matches in driveways, shattered plates, tears on hardwood floors. But the most effective revenge? It doesn't scream. It whispers. It waits. It's surgical. And in Amelia's case, it was designed to look like mercy, right up until the moment it wasn't. 3 days after I handed her the divorce folder, she tried to regain control. That's how people like her operate. They don't mourn the loss. They mourn the power. She came downstairs in a silk robe, made coffee, and acted like she hadn't detonated our marriage with the grace of a wrecking ball and pearls. I was sitting on the patio. Crisp morning. Coffee in one hand, divorce documents in the other. She stood in the doorway like she was debating whether to smile or slap me. About the documents, she said. I didn't look up. What about them? I think we're rushing. I sipped. We've had 8 years. Seems slow to me. She crossed her arms. You're being cold. No, I said, finally meeting her eyes. I'm being efficient. You want chaos? Go find Kenton. I'm sure he's halfway through a midlife crisis and looking for new hobbies. That struck a nerve. Her jaw clenched. He wasn't, she started, then stopped. You don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I said, holding up my phone. I do. On the screen was a photo. Kenton leaving the hotel alone. No Amelia. No bags. Just Kenton. With that shell-shocked look men get when they realize the fantasy they bought came with a receipt and no return policy. You showed him the note? She asked, voice low. I didn't have to, I said. The hotel staff did it for me. Concierge was more than happy to place it right on the pillow, next to the champagne. You remember the suite, right? Lakeview Terrace. Same one we stayed in 3 years ago. You know, back when you still looked me in the eye. Her shoulders dropped, like she was finally starting to feel the gravity. The emotional hangover after a long night of pretending you're not the villain. Now here's where the mirror trap comes in. A few months back, long before the envelope, before Kenton, before her guilt started hiding behind green smoothies and late-night yoga classes, I began documenting. Not stalking. Documenting. Big difference. I had this instinct. A knot in my chest that no amount of logic could untie. So I did what I always do when something doesn't feel right. I gathered the blueprints. Cell phone records. Check. GPS pings from her car's Bluetooth. Check. Work. Emails that curiously bounced between 2 inboxes at 1:14 a.m. Double check. Bank statements. Nail in the coffin. She'd opened a separate checking account in a name she didn't even bother disguising. Just her middle name and maiden last. Subtle as a brick through a windshield. That's when I discovered something better than betrayal. An opportunity. You see, Amelia had a habit of using my laptop. Said hers was too slow. And since she never bothered checking which drive was syncing to the cloud, she didn't realize I had access to every single document she typed in the last 6 months. Expense reports. A therapist note to herself that read more like a manifesto. I don't want to be married anymore. But I don't want to be alone. I need to be adored, not tolerated. Mark doesn't see me anymore. Kenton does. She saved it under the file name, self_reflection.docs. Now that was poetic. Because the one thing Amelia could never handle was the truth, especially if it came wearing her own handwriting. So the day after our kitchen conversation, I emailed her. No subject line, just a PDF. Attached were all her own words. Scans of her fake receipts, the duplicate hotel reservations she made 2 weeks before the retreat, and a screenshot of her shared bank transfers. All neat, all time-stamped, all hers. At the bottom of the file was a simple message. Sometimes the mirror doesn't lie. It just reflects what you keep trying not to see. 10 minutes later, I heard her car start. She drove off like she had somewhere urgent to be, but I knew better. She was looking for a place that would still tell her she was the hero. She stayed gone for 2 days. No texts. No calls. Silence. You'd think I'd celebrate, throw a party, light a victory cigar. I didn't. I cleaned the house. Packed her things. Donated the gifts she bought Kenton. Yep, I found those receipts too, and left them at the doorstep of his office with a note that said, "She shops early. Hope you do too." Then I booked a meeting with my realtor. Because it wasn't just about ending the marriage. It was about resetting the foundation. When Amelia finally came back, I was in the garage. She stood in the doorway, bags in hand, mascara a little too perfect. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "You were right." "No," I said, without turning. "You were just wrong. That's not the same thing." She blinked. "Can we talk?" I looked at her, calm and collected. "Sure. But just so you know, this garage, I designed it to hold a 1970 Mustang. Never got around to buying it." She didn't get it. "It means I don't keep space for things I don't want anymore." And I walked past her, because for once, she was the one being left behind. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for Amelia to realize she had lost control of the story. Not the marriage. She'd burned that bridge and then poured gasoline on the ashes. No, I'm talking about the narrative. The carefully curated image she'd projected to friends, to coworkers, to her Instagram followers who still commented things like #couplegoals under photos of us from 2 summers ago. She thought she was the director of this little drama. Turns out, she was just an underpaid extra in the final act. And I had the script. It started with whispers. Apparently, Kenton had done what all great cowards do, ghosted her after the note, deleted her number, blocked her on every platform, even pulled his gym membership from the place she frequented. The man went full CIA vanish. Word got around fast in their little social circle. A woman doesn't get publicly dumped at a boutique hotel without some concierge staff talking, especially when she's crying in a bathrobe, asking if there's any way the champagne could be returned. Spoiler, it couldn't. Meanwhile, I had been busy. The house went on the market. Sold in 5 days, cash offer. I didn't tell Amelia until the papers were signed. "You sold the house?" she said, standing in the foyer, the one she once said felt like a dream when we moved in. I nodded. Didn't see the point in keeping a shared memory with 1 chair and 2 ghosts. She blinked, caught between outrage and confusion. "Where am I supposed to go?" "Anywhere you want," I said, handing her an envelope. "Your cut, minus the damages." She opened it. "What damages?" I tilted my head. "Emotional, structural, spiritual. Call it tax." The check was less than she expected. Legal. Fair. And just insulting enough to leave a bruise on her ego. Now here's where the real fun begins. Remember how she liked to pretend? How she spent months playing house while drafting a life without me on the side? Well, turns out, her job had some very specific moral clauses in that new promotion contract she'd been chasing. And when your role is all about public relations and you get caught cheating on your husband with someone tied to a vendor you were negotiating with. Yeah, not a good look. How did that come to light? Let's just say the anonymous envelope I mailed to her HR department had everything they needed to reassess her candidacy. Screenshots, calendar entries, the same receipt from Lakeview, with Kenton's name circled in red. Her company didn't fire her. They did worse. They quietly passed her over. No explanation. No fanfare. Just silence and a congratulatory email to someone else. She called me that night. "You did this," she said. "No," I replied. "You did this." I just added punctuation. "Now, I know what you're thinking. Wasn't this supposed to be about walking away with dignity?" It was. But let me clarify something. Revenge doesn't always come from anger. Sometimes it comes from clarity. See, Amelia thought I'd crumble, that I'd chase her, that I'd flinch at the idea of life without her. But what she never understood, what she never bothered to learn, is that I was built for rebuilding. You don't spend your life designing homes without knowing how to tear one down safely. And now? Now I was free. I moved into a smaller place. Sleek, clean, quiet. No perfume trails in the hallway. No laughter that didn't belong to me. Just air, space, and silence, the honest kind. Then something happened I didn't expect. I got a letter. A real one. Handwritten. From Kenton. Inside was a short note. I read the letter. "The one you left on the pillow. I'm not proud of any of it. I didn't know you'd been there before. I didn't know she was married to someone that aware. If it matters," I walked out. I told her she disgusted me. "I guess I'm writing to say thank you. I almost got involved with someone who couldn't tell the difference between being admired and being loved." We both dodged something. He included a photo of the note, framed on his wall. I laughed. Not out of humor. Out of disbelief. Imagine being the kind of man who steals someone's wife, reads a letter from that husband, and walks away changed. That's power. Not fists. Not yelling. Words. As for Amelia, she eventually moved in with a friend. Claimed she needed space to heal. Last I heard, She tried reconnecting with some old acquaintances, most of whom had quietly picked a side. It wasn't hers. Turns out, when you build your life on illusions, the crash gets lonely. And me? Well, I wasn't alone. Remember that woman I mentioned? The one who knew the whole story? Her name's Claire. Works in acquisitions. Smart. Sharp. Kind in a way that doesn't announce itself. We met at a conference the year before everything unraveled. Nothing inappropriate. Just friendly conversation over overpriced coffee. She remembered I said I design houses like people live in them, not pose in them. She quoted that back to me the first time we had dinner, months after the divorce was finalized. I told her the whole story. Every brutal, ironic, infuriating detail. She didn't interrupt. Just listened. And then she said, "You didn't get your heart broken. You got your clarity delivered express." She was right. Sometimes, the cruelest thing you can do to someone who tries to shatter you is to become better without them. Not just healed. Unrecognizable. Amelia once said she didn't want to be tied down. Well, now she's drifting. Unmoored. Chasing attention like it's oxygen. And me? I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Anchored. Steady. And one step ahead that I didn't hear from Amelia for months. That silence. It wasn't peace. It was planning. I knew her too well to think she'd walk away quietly. Amelia's pride was made of glass. Pretty, but it shattered loud. Then, one chilly October afternoon, I got a text. Coffee. No context. No apology. Just that familiar arrogance wrapped in faux casual. Like we hadn't burned the entire house down and danced in the embers. I stared at the screen. Didn't reply. So she escalated. The next day, a knock on my office door. My assistant peeked in. "There's a woman here. Says she's your wife." "Ex-wife," I said without looking up. "Tell her I'm in a meeting." I wasn't. I was designing a lakeside cabin for a couple that reminded me what partnership actually looks like. The kind where you build dreams, not secret hotel reservations. She didn't leave. She waited. For 2 hours. I finally walked out, bag over my shoulder, and there she was, Amelia, standing in the hallway like she still belonged in my world. "You changed your number?" she asked. "No," I said. "You lost access." She tried to smile. "That's fair." I waited. No point in giving her conversation she didn't earn. "I just wanted to talk," she said finally. "See how you've been. Talk or justify?" She blinked. "Can it be both?" I studied her. She looked older. Not in the cruel way, just worn. Like the world finally stopped editing her photos and showed her the raw cut. "You look good," she said. "I am good," I replied. "So what do you want, Amelia?" Her eyes dropped. "I miss us." I nodded. "You miss who I was. Who you could lie to. That man's not here anymore." She didn't cry. Not her style. But her voice cracked. "I thought if I came back different, maybe you'd." I raised a hand. "Don't rewrite the past. You didn't leave because you were confused. You left because you thought I'd wait." I walked away. She didn't follow. Winter came. Amelia tried to re-enter polite society. Word got around. She was at events, smiling too wide, laughing too loud. She even started a blog. Reclaiming Grace. A title so ironic I almost subscribed. She wrote posts about healing, reflection, and surviving emotional neglect. I was the villain in her monologue. A cold husband. An unfeeling man. She turned our divorce into branding. But here's the thing about liars. They forget the witnesses. People knew. Not because I told them. Because she had already revealed who she was the night she forgot our anniversary and remembered someone else's cologne. Her community didn't last. One by one, the comments stopped. The praise dried up. She wasn't a tragic figure, just a cautionary tale dressed in curated lighting. Meanwhile, I rebuilt. Not out of spite. Out of purpose. Claire and I weren't just dating. We were designing a life. No big declarations. No hollow promises. Just presence. She once said to me, "I don't need forever. I need real." So I gave her that. Every day, our old anniversary rolled around again. Amelia texted. One line. "Thinking of you today." I didn't reply, but I did make a reservation. Same hotel. Same suite. Lakeview Terrace. Claire and I went together. Not to reenact a memory, but to reclaim a space. She didn't know the full backstory until we arrived. When she asked, I handed her the letter I'd once left for Amelia, the one that was never read. She read it, then folded it carefully. "You ever think about sending it again?" she asked. I smiled. "No need. The right person read it this time." We popped the champagne I never got to drink. The room didn't feel haunted anymore. Meanwhile, Amelia was home alone. Not metaphorically, literally. She'd just moved into a rental house in a quieter part of town. Word had it she'd been ghosted by another perfect guy. Something about emotional unavailability. You can't run from patterns if you keep packing them in your suitcase. And her wine that night? She drank it alone. I got one more letter. A real one. From Amelia. The handwriting looked tired. Like even the pen was ashamed. Inside, I used to think you were cold. That you didn't fight for me. But now I see. You didn't lose me. You let me go. And that was the kindest thing you ever did. No return address. No signature. Just that single, uncharacteristic confession. I didn't frame it. I didn't burn it. I dropped it in the drawer with the old wedding photos and left it there, between memory and closure. Some people say revenge is best served cold. I disagree. The best revenge is indifference served warm. A life lived better. A laugh that doesn't come from bitterness, but from freedom. A relationship that doesn't need to be loud to be real. I didn't destroy Amelia. She did that herself. All I did was build a better story out of the rubble she left behind. And when people ask me now, do you ever think about her? Yeah, I think about how I survived her. And then I smile. Because I designed the exit. And made it beautiful.